Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Monday, July 27th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. The Chiefs players are returning to the facility and getting tested, going through safety precautions and protocols as training camp approaches. We chatted with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and trainer Rick Burkholder, among others, this weekend, and you'll hear what they have to say about the health steps needed for the Super Bowl champion to return to practice. But before we hear from them, beat writers Herbie, Teope, and Sam McDowell, along with columnist Vahe Gregorian, talk about our impressions of the Chiefs as they get back into the swing of things. The Chiefs seem to be making all the right moves, but even so, there's concern about the players once they leave the facility. And we also spent some time talking about Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, the offensive guard who has opted out this season for all the right reasons. So here we go with Herbie, Sam, and Vahe.
All right, if the calendar, if my memory serves me, the calendar says that the Chiefs in a normal year would be in training camp at St. Joe, Missouri Western. Veterans would have reported or maybe checked into the dorm on Sunday, with the rookies having gotten into town last week. It's all different now. If I got the timeline right on that, Herbie, is it would veterans have been in? But it seems like it's always on a Sunday afternoon when the veterans check in.
Yeah, they would have actually checked in. They checked in correctly on Saturday, because remember the new CBA is 47 days from their first regular season game. So had this been a regular year, they would have been on Saturday, hit the practice field this weekend. Rookies would have had a good solid rookies and quarterbacks, I should say, and select players would have had a good 3 or 4 days of practice before the veterans showed up, and then they would be on the field right now as a team.
Anything but normal. So on Saturday, we talked to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and in probably the most unusual example of this being an abnormal season, we got to ask Rick Burkholder questions, and that never happens. Usually the Chiefs trainer just comes to the podium and announces injuries. And look, I credit the Chiefs for at least doing that, but in this case, with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then 3 rookies speaking, Rick Burkholder spent the most time talking to the media on Saturday, and for good reason, because COVID-19 is such a big part of what's going on with the Chiefs, in the NFL, in sports. And take us through what is going to be different. We've talked about this from a media standpoint, but you guys, from a team standpoint, what's going to be different for the Chiefs? How do they go forward from here? And Herbie, you surprised me a little bit today when you said that August 14th could be the first day that the entire team is on the field practicing together. A day when would normally be the first preseason game, but not until August 14th could you get the whole team on the field?
Yeah, and because of the things that happen right now because of COVID, the NFL and the NFLPA were in deep discussions. Safety and health were at the top of the radar, or the totem pole, I should say. And so they came to an agreement on Friday. Camps can now start because we have all these protocols in place. And you're absolutely correct. This is a lot different from years past, where they would hit the ground running. But we got to remember, they haven't had any OTAs. They didn't have the strength and conditioning program that you typically see in April. They didn't have the benefit of a mini camp. So the players weren't practicing together. They were doing it by themselves or in select groups before the NFLPA put a stop to that, or recommended they put a stop to that back in July. So the way it's working now is their first 4 days, 3 of those 4 days are going to be spent testing. They're going to be testing them. So the rookies that started their testing, the veterans are starting their testing now. And then they're going to go through a conditioning phase, which consists of 8 days before they're actually allowed on the practice field. And so you're typically looking right now, August the 14th. And because of everything that's going on, and then they had to change the training camp schedule, preseason games, all gone. All 4 of them are gone. And because everything is going to be geared towards preparing for the regular season. Some of the things that were really going to be different outside of not being at St. Joe is the Chiefs are going to be practicing at Arrowhead. Rick Burkholder told us they turned the concourses into meeting areas because it's spacious and you have to keep social distancing in mind. Cafeterias, no longer allowed to sit in there. It's the meals are made to go, and if anybody is sitting in there, the tables are spaced out with no more than 2 to 3 chairs at each table. At least that's what Rick Burkholder told us. When they do get on the practice field, another different feel to it. You're no longer going to see equipment people running around and squirting water into players' mouths. They're going to get their own individual waters. Towel sharing is no longer a thing. They're all going to get their own individual towels. But everything that they're doing now is with safety in mind.
Yeah, the images that conjured when we heard Rick Burkholder talk about that Saturday was, for those of us that have been up at St. Joe at training camp for all these years, and it's just it's just strange to imagine that happening. But there it is. Patrick Mahomes spoke, and Sam, he felt confident about the way that the Chiefs are handling this, and we did hear. Look, we heard a lot of Rick Burkholder praising the Chiefs over the way that the team has handled the COVID, and it seems, based on the stuff that I've heard, with Andy Reid talking to NFL officials, that the Chiefs have taken a kind of a leading role in the process of handling COVID-19.
Rick Burkholder told us that they were the first team that had their infectious disease emergency response plan approved by the NFL. And Andy Reid kind of hinted at a few of the measures they've taken with plexiglass separating the locker spaces. But you mentioned it, that Patrick Mahomes said after seeing the Chiefs setup, he became more comfortable with going in there. But he didn't say that he feels like the risk is zero. He still feels like there is some concern, even if that concern is minimized. And of course, there has to be some concern, because what stands out to me most about what the NFL is doing in the absence of a bubble, and I understand the logistics of having such a large team when you compare it to MLS or NBA rosters, the logistics of a bubble might not work out, but what you're left with is the players are going to have to own responsibility of how this all works out, because they're all going to be going home at night, as are the coaches. And so to me, the NFL, whether or not this works, it's going to come down to the players and what they do away from the facility, because if they feel like the facility is set up well, they still got to go home at night.
Yeah, Andy Reid addressed that, and Vahe, that's um, the numbers don't allow the NFL or any football team, to play in a bubble, right? We do see that in the MLS, and we see it in the NBA. The NHL is doing it as well. Major League Baseball had the opportunity to do that, but we've talked about playing all of its games at the spring training sites in Arizona and Florida, chose not to do it. And just today, we've learned the Florida Marlins are having issues, and the game is postponed. And also the Yankees supposed to be the next team in the locker room that was infected. They postponed their game. So all sorts of issues going on in baseball. You're not going to be able to play football or practice football in a bubble, so you just kind of cross your fingers, right, and hope for the best.
Well, I guess that's what you're stuck with, and it really, I mean, short of a biosphere, which those bubbles kind of are, that's the great X factor. How do you navigate what's happening within is one thing, but when you have all these variables without, that's the place that really gets funny. I was impressed with what the Royals were telling us, and what we've been able to witness. I was impressed with that with the Chiefs, with the detail they're laying out. But the truth is, we can't really see how that looks or exactly how it's executed. But the broader issue is always going to be, it's not contained to that area. So I don't know. We're seeing some evidence that baseball's on, perhaps inevitably shaky ground. And football, it seems to me, you're going to have some multipliers in the formula, whether it's the blood, sweat, and tears of the game itself, or just the sheer number of people, X amount more of equipment, all that. So, but my big takeaway is they were still sharing towels till now. I didn't know they were sharing towels till this. It seemed like NFL teams might have made that provision earlier.
Well, I could see one guy, grabbing a towel, and then another guy just grabbing it out of his hand and wiping some sweat off. And I guess I hadn't thought. These are things that we never had to think about before, or
Right.
notice. Why would you? and now Herbie's going to be going out to practices when they allow the media on a pretty regular basis. That's all you're going to look for, right? I mean, it's just who's
Yeah.
who's sitting and where, and are they planning themselves socially distant? Are they wearing masks while not engaged on the practice field? And all these things that were never part of the conversation are going to be part of at least the observation when we do go out to practice and observe that. Well,
I can't
I
wait
think
to see Herbie's hazmat suit, Blair. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's gonna have some Leavenworth issued extra goods.
well at least it's going to get Herbie out of Leavenworth. I think that's the other story.
Yeah, I'm scared of that, and I'm telling you, I'm scared of that. If you guys remember, I haven't filled up my gas tank since mid-March because I just haven't never had a reason to leave. But now I'm gonna have to start putting gas in the car, and we'll see.
Hey, another storyline that came out. Story broke on Friday, and we got to talk a little bit about it on Saturday. Was the decision by Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, the starting guard for the Chiefs, to opt out of this season. And for all the right reasons. I just thought it was it's a great story, and I think an excellent decision. Vahe, you ended up writing about this in today's print editions of the Kansas City Star. Take us through the LTD decision.
Well, first of all, great hustle by Sam McDowell, posting a story right away Friday night, and it was that kind of important story even on a Friday night to get out there. And obviously we've all been a little bit intrigued, moved, all this by Laurent ever since he came. I mean, and it got me thinking about even our initial definition of him was that he was not conventional guy. First of all, he was raw, hadn't played the game much, was from Canada, but was just coming off helping with a delivery in a hospital when the Chiefs drafted him. And that sort of has been the underpinning of our understanding of him all along, that he's unconventional, certainly a humanitarian. Blair, you did a few things, I think, in particular, looking at other aspects of his life where he had, sailing up and down the East Coast for a year, and just a different kind of person. So the fact that he pursued and got his medical doctor degree, in the end wasn't a surprise. It's probably more surprising that he became a good player because he was such a project at the start, right? But then he answered the call after the season when it was clear that obviously the world's in distress and he has a chance to help. And there's been some not complications, but he was brought in a sort of capacity that's somewhere between orderly and nurse as opposed to doctor. I think that there's some question about what they needed. Also, I don't think he's done his residency, so things like that. But the fact that he would turn down what really is a pretty enticing situation, whether it's financial or the chance to be part of a repeat, to keep doing this, I think just speaks to his priorities. Obviously, he's a little conscious of risk, but I don't have the words right in front of me, but I think we were all struck by the one phrasing about, if I am to take risks, I'll do it trying to help patients, not on the field, something to that effect. And those were words I think we'll always remember in some form or another.
No, that's right. It was something like that. But I think we got the sentiment. I'll never forget this. So we're covering the Super Bowl, and it's one of those media days during the week leading up to the game. So we're in the ballroom at the hotel or the resort where the Chiefs are staying, and it's Laurent is out. He's at his booth, and of course he's being crowded by the Montreal press, which is there, and other Canadian media, and I'm there. I think. Tammy Youngblood, our photographer, shooting it, and then there's a voice, a reporter. It was a female reporter. I can't remember who it was, but from the back she asked. And keep in mind, this is the last day or so in January, and she asks Laurent, "What do you think about the coronavirus?" And at the time, all we knew about the virus was it was in China, spreading, throughout China and Wuhan, and hadn't come over to the United States. And I just remember thinking at the time I'd have to, I'll make a note of this and hear what he has to say, and maybe look it up a little bit for a short story. Well, he gave a great answer. He didn't know much about it, but he spent some of the week studying up on it, and it was just it was an impressive moment, another in a line of impressive moments for Laurent Duvernay-Tardif.
Blair, sorry to interrupt, but just to amplify that point, because you had found it in your notes and fed it to me when I wrote about him a few weeks ago.
Right, that's right.
And the term was one of the terms he used was he was asked about it, and he said, "I think it's serious." February 28th. Well, I'm sorry, but before that was before the Super Bowl.
January 28th.
But it was February 28th when he
you wrote the story.
Going around the world. And anyway, long story short, your point is right. I think it's serious, he said. If only more people had thought of it that way sooner.
Yeah. Yes. The answer to that is yes. So. Okay, Herbie, where does it go from here for the Chiefs? What's the we know that they're being extra cautious with their health protocols, safety protocols. Where does it go from here with the Chiefs? And keep in mind, the Chiefs and the Houston Texans are starting a little earlier, get to start a little earlier because they do have the first scheduled game on the Thursday night football.
Yeah, the thing that they're going to really dive into here, if we put all the COVID stuff on the back burner and then just focus on football, that's what they're going to need to do, because without preseason games, a key piece of the evaluation process is going to be gone. And this is really going to affect a lot of the undrafted free agents who are fighting for roster spots. And the Chiefs, because there's so much unknown, might decide to go with the known and just stick with the players that they're really, truly familiar with. Some of the things that should help them if they do identify a player that they really like and they want to stash him away is the expansion of the practice squad. The NFLPA and the NFL agreed to expand the practice squad to 16 players this year because of COVID. So they do have some options to hold on to, but this is the key thing right now for the Chiefs. It's focused to football, and if you're allowed to, knock on wood, the season will kick off for them on September the 10th when they host the Houston Texans, but they got a lot of work ahead of them because they didn't have the benefit of all the offseason workouts. So they're going to have to really hit the ground and prioritize, this is what we need to get you ready for the year.
Okay, and hey, before we leave the Laurent Duvernay-Tardif topic, we found out about it on Friday. We talked to some Chiefs rookies, including Lucas Niang, the draft pick from TCU, the tackle who's been working at guard and asked some questions about the position with the idea that maybe he would be getting some, pretty hard look with the Chiefs. However, was it Sunday that the Chiefs made a move and picked up the free agent from the Jets? I want to say Osemele. Is that how?
Kalichi Osemele, correct.
Yeah. Who played? I remember him at Iowa State. So the Chiefs. I think this is the thing that championship organizations do, right? They went out and signed a veteran, and so he's 31 years old, and I guess it remains to be seen what exactly happens. But I'm looking at him as the guy they plug into that position, don't you, Herbie?
Yeah, he gives them a lot of flexibility because he can play left guard and right guard. He's a two-time Pro Bowl selection. He was a 2016 first-team All-Pro, and that came at left guard. And we talk about Lucas Niang, and we asked Andy Reid that question: is he a guy that projects to get a lot of reps at right guard? And he kind of how Reid is. We got to get him in here. But then he brought up Mike Remmers. Yeah, I have a feeling they knew they were signing Osemele when Andy Reid talked to us, because he mentioned Mike Remmers is a guy that can also play at right guard. And Remmers, and he's absolutely correct, because Remmers can play all five positions on the offensive line. So if you get a guy, when you get Osemele, if he's 100% healthy, because he had shoulder issues last year with the Jets, but if he's healthy, you got a two-time Pro Bowler and a first-team All-Pro, a plug-and-play kind of guy. who gives you the stability that you need there, and Remmers can slide over to right guard.
Pretty shrewd move by the Chiefs. Okay, so coming up, I was also interested to hear this morning that Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell are going to start working on Chiefs breakdown, roster breakdown with position battles, and really looking forward to that. I think that's going to hit sometime next week. Is that right, guys?
Correct.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that and look forward to it. And Vahe Gregorian, always good talking to you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, you're going to hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Rick Burkholder, who met the media on Saturday. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Blair.
for having us, Blair.
Thanks, Blair.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I think, first off, with all the protocols, I think the NFLPA did a good job of getting all the players on the calls to make sure that we were prepared to be in the building and prepared for everything that was going to entail with that. And so being here today, you just see that the NFL and NFLPA are really taking this thing seriously. They're really taking the social distancing, the wearing a mask, everything like that seriously, so that we're not hurting each other or hurting anyone else out in the world with being here together and trying to build something. And then with no preseason games, obviously I don't know exactly how that's going to be because I've never done it before. But, going back to college, I think you know that there has been times where you have to get to those first games and it's serious. You got to make sure you go out there and try to win football games. So I'll try to lean on that, as well as I feel like when you have this acclimation period, it will help guys build up and make sure their bodies are prepared. I feel like that was what was most important. Other than, the preseason games are something that help a lot of guys out, but I think the health of the players and having this acclimation period to get everybody ready to go so that when we do hit the field, they're ready to go.
It's a very unique time. We think we're going to put the players in a position where they're safe. It's a responsibility, though, at the same time. So it's a responsibility for the coaches, for the players, and anybody dealing with the players to take responsibility to follow the format that's set for us to fight this virus and still have an opportunity to play football. So I will continue to work with the players on that. The players, again, will work together on that. There's going to be a give. There's got to be a little give and take situation going on here. Responsibility, I guess, would be the term. When we all leave the building as coaches and players, that we handle ourselves properly and keep ourselves as safe again as we possibly can, and that'll be important for the season to move forward. But again, it's quite a neat setup. I wish you guys had the opportunity to see it. I'm sure you've seen probably pictures of it by now, but the setup is tremendous. We're going to work in the stadium and down in our facility here. But the majority of the meetings and food will take place at the stadium, dressing room at the stadium, and then we'll have our practices down here, and we'll be able to lift down here also. So, all right, with that, time's yours.
We'll start with Adam Tyson.
Hey, Andy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. Hey, a couple things. I wanted to ask you first about your reaction to Larry's decision to opt out this season. But also was wondering now that guys are back in the building every day now and you're cranking this thing up, what's your level of concern for your own personal safety is?
Yeah, so listen, I'll start with Larry. I'm a huge Larry Duvernay-Tardif fan, so and I also was raised by a doctor, so I understand the dedication that it takes to be a doctor. We're all blessed to have doctors in our lives. They're givers. They're not takers. They're givers, and they're healers. So they want the best for you. And so Larry has that quality, and you're seeing it to the utmost here. I just think it's tremendous dedication to his profession, what his future is going to be, and mainly to the people that he gets to help. And so my heart goes out to him. I had a great talk with him, great visit with him. His players support him. The veteran players support him, and the coaches support him. And we know, we understand when football is over, this is going to be one of the greatest doctors ever. So it's we appreciate that. The great thing about doctors, the ones that I've been in touch with over my life here, and like I said, I was raised by one, and I've got three of my closest friends are doctors. So they're givers, man. And they're not the takers. So they're very humble people that want to help you and heal you. And they're not out looking for, like Larry, they're not out looking for the pat on the back that they're doing this or that. They're not looking for attention. I mean, Larry is buried in. He's not looking to do interviews and all of this stuff. He's buried in and trying to get the work done that he needs to heal people. And man, I mean, what a dedication that is, and a love that is. I'm so happy and proud. As far as the setup here and feeling like we're in a safe environment, I think it will gone to great ends to do this. We're as safe as you can be here. Like I said on this, so Adam, dedication and staying disciplined when you leave this facility will be important. When you're here, this is a safe environment, and so you've got to continue that once you leave here, and so that ends up being important, and we have a plan for that too. So that we'll talk to the players about, and so I feel good about it myself. I feel good about it. Yes.
Just a little education. The fastest vaccine in history, in world history, is 4 years, and that was for the mumps. We are right now at about 5 months. So, everybody asks that question, how are you going to play football without a vaccine? There's viruses out there like HIV that never got a vaccine. The common cold doesn't have a vaccine. Herpes doesn't have a vaccine, right? So we have viruses that don't have vaccines. There's no telling that we're going to get a vaccine for this. So we can't think like that. We've got to go to the next step. If we get the vaccine, great. We've got to go to the next step of testing. Every team's going to have positive tests. We know that. Society, I mean, we're testing positive at 70,000 a day right now. We know that. What we hope is we limit our tests, or limit our positive tests, and when we get a positive test, we act accordingly with the CDC to get those people isolated, get them healthy, and get them safely back to work. And there's a whole lot of protocol that would take me an hour to talk to you about, because a lot of it's on not an individual basis, but an individual case. So it doesn't matter whether it's Patrick or whether it's me. We've got to follow the guidelines that are positive test, symptoms, days, antibodies, all that kind of stuff to determine when it's safe for that person to come back to work. And I think the NFL will release that eventually. I don't think I've been cleared to release the actual days. Certainly all of us that do healthcare for the NFL and the coaches and the general managers, we've asked a question about Fridays before games. Right now, we don't have games, so that's a good thing. But they're putting some protocols together as we get closer to game time. And listen, it's not going to be normal. This isn't going to feel normal for anybody in this building, any of you guys, because you know what? It's not normal. So we've got to adjust. And I'll go back to the 2019 season. No team adjusted as well as the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to adjust, and we're going to make it happen, and we're going to get positives, and we're going to take care of those guys. And when it's safe to come back to work, they will. We're going to get positive tests within the staff. We're going to take care of them and their families and get them back to work when it's safe. We're chasing an unknown right now, which is okay, because there's a lot known, but there's a little bit of I wouldn't say we're chasing an unknown. We're chasing something invisible. There's a lot known about it. It's not unknown. We're chasing something invisible. My wife asked me the other night, how are you doing this? And I said, hey, when we were in Jersey, remember when we had water in the basement? She said, yeah, you didn't know where it was coming from. And I said, exactly. You don't know this. I mean, you've got to take universal precautions and do your thing, but you just don't know who has it. So masks, sanitizing, gloves, PPE.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Savannah Smith, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. A tip of the cap to Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, and Vahe Gregorian for talking Chiefs. Links to stories about the Chiefs can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There are 47 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus extra news, sports, and business coverage. Details, account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Tuesday with a new episode.